think it's happening. No,
Hello to all our readers and viewers for the Boston Poetry Marathon 2021.
Woo!
I am Joe Elliott. Our technical host for the hour today is Bridget. Thank you, Bridget, and our organizers for this year's Boston Poetry Marathon Online for 2021. Christina Liu, Xtina Strong, Suzanne Mercury, and Bridget Eileen. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to our volunteers for the weekend, Gilmore Tammy, Daniel Pritchard, Tom Daly, myself, Douglas Rothschild, Brendan Lorber, and Chad Parento as special assistant to Carol Weston. We are streaming live to our Facebook page at Boston Poetry Marathon, our Twitter via Periscope at Boss Poetry Mara, and live on our YouTube channel. For links to these broadcasts, go to bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/watch. This year's Boston Poetry Marathon is a fundraiser for local organizations, just got to go down a little bit, that work for racial justice in support of the Black Lives Matter and Stop Asian Hate movements. Donations will go to Sista Fire, Rhode Island, the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, and the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center.
And sorry to interrupt, Joe, but I just want to say that we have broken through our goal by $125 already. So if we could keep smashing through it as high as possible.
Jeez.
We're going to keep this open for a little while.
I feel the roof has been broken through. I can see the stars above us right now, Bridget. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So it's at bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/donate. That'll take you to the link to our fundraiser.
Awesome. And it's going to be open for a few days, yes?
Well, yeah, for maybe a little bit longer than that, because we might try and make you feel like compelled to donate as we work to edit all the videos with info in there and be like, hey, we're working so hard for you to get all your info in these videos so that you show up on the Google. So pay it forward by donating.
Yeah,
That's what we did last year.
Guilt is a fine thing.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I grew up Catholic, so.
Admission to the Boston Poetry Marathon is free, but a $10 or more donation to our fundraiser is recommended and appreciated. Please go to bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/donate for more information. Go to the pinned post or the bios and our social media for these links as well. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see. So I'm going to introduce the readers for the hour right now. They'll give a quick hello so we can double check their audio and connection. So everyone unmute and you can say hello when I say your name. Our first reader is going to be Mitch Highfill.
Hello.
Ruby Poltarak.
Hey there.
Xtina Strong.
Hello.
John Mulroe.
Hello.
Marianne Shannon.
Whoa. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Jennifer Markell.
Hi there. Hi, Ruby.
Zachary Boss.
Hello, everyone.
Michael Peters and Kristen
Hello.
Garth.
Hello.
All right, awesome. So, all right, we're about to officially start the reading. So if we could please have all but our first reader now mute themselves. Techos, please switch us to speaker view and let us know that it's all set. Let me see, are we good?
Doing that right now.
Okay.
All set.
Okay, our first reader of the hour is my pal, Mitch Highfill. Please welcome Mitch Highfill. Woo, 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 woo.
This is the waning moon. The core of an emotion so impedes the oars trickled onto the sand that darkness hinders breath instead of number, color. Crossing the empty street refashions the world and guards the art of making gods while the sirens sing all day and night. What work you find posting as a meter reader under the voluptuous sky. I'm a quick study, but there came an equation through which the sun passed, removing us each from the other. I could see it while retracing my steps, words that swallow themselves suddenly remembered by clouds of crying witnesses waiting to be arrested. The machine that sustains us in place of itself, a short kiss before walking as far as the station, a winding molecule of episodes hasn't stopped ringing since. Emptiness and loss abound, bounding herds thinned at last, and I could finally see where I was, imprisoned in the material. Each letter written involves the angel of that letter, moon over matter, years too early to do any good, can only become clear later like a slap in the face clarifies things. Not so much art as need, the need to find my map of the territory in place of itself. Art, like heat, refashions the nerves. The brain was and always wanted to be the edge, making a mess of itself, crosses the empty street with no future to secure. The minute pathogens flushed at last. The narcissists own the day, our day in hiding. These days of collusion break down ghost flares, worship chants anywhere but in between when the music stops and there are no more chairs. I look down at the sawdust on the floor, which might as well be the ceiling, for a place to sit. Swaying through various gauntlets as if a game show host was in charge. We have to enforce a pause for these paid announcements, these flayed pronouncements. Beg for mercy. Please make us stop, they say. We cannot stop the meat locker trucks from lining up outside the ICU units. We cannot stop the pizza conspiracies. Cannot stop the we will not be replaced burning torches plow through the heart of what is. Burning effigies repose fantastical portraits of the process, like so many workers shifting uncomfortably in their make nice while the rug is pulled out from under them. Us, pregnant from poison, absurdity a moment from meaning to meaning. Leprosy is virtue as opposed to the spirit of depth. The last business to go out of business is the funeral home. Doom scrolling. A way of moving just so. When the music is right, the temperature somewhere between 65 and 70, you are walking down a one-way street the wrong way as ever, and you hear the sirens a block or three away. First one, then several more, a kind of Mobius strip of continuous wailing. Surgical masks litter the gutter on McDonald Street, a beautiful spring day. First flush, final flush, fleshless college reopens a new can of worms in advance of the thickening, gently folded into the batter upside our heads and over the hills to the ventilators. A geriatric punk band playing their last gig in a lockdown nursing home. Ah, wilderness indeed. Time reigns absolute in this place, and we need a lot more than masks to mute the curve, a lot more than birthers on a plate in the rain. Time weighs tons on the upper lip, riddles these exchanges like a bandage under the brim of your hat. Through a crack in the world, fear, the great motivator, made permeable at last. Great pictures have souls. When you return to empty space, they speak the language that is broken open without moving the mouth. Love is in the luggage made permeable because the words won't stop until they matter no more. No more matter, humbly mumbles gold. Of no carrot, no bobbing for action in the stream. You are told to stay in your lane, wherever that is. The track of the tasteless leads to the depot of the dumb. What was our secret? How did we get self to mind? Sometimes made up songs with no frame of reference, molecules of mind in pools of lost cause. Last pause before the handles blew off. The gods dawdle on their path to our perfection, a sandy residue in our shoes. We don't see bright lights or hear angel choruses, just fingerprints. Sometimes you catch the falling knife and sometimes you make shadow figures with your hands behind your back, and you can partly see the shadow play in your peripheral vision. There was no foul play, only a long blast of oxygen and nothing. Angels don't have fingerprints. You wash your hands all day, but you can't seem to wash the wash off what has been washed. At some point, the skin would wash off too. Web browsers don't have hands. Fingerprints don't fade from what they have touched. What role does your fingerprint play in the book you read? Perpetual inroads made. Rhyme that right up. This is the territory. There is no other. This is the rapture. We are in the sky already. We just don't know it yet. This is the perfect world. There used to be more, but we ate them. There used to be more because we could see more. We used to see more because we were looking for more. More air in the room, more time for reflection, more head than heart, more room for error, more truly lost than found. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. That was Mitch Heifel. That was a breathless testimony to what we all went through. Thank you for that. Awesome. Our next reader is Ruby Poltarak. Please welcome Ruby.
Hi, and thanks to the last reader, and thanks to all of you hosting, organizing. My first poem is about urban renewal of the 50s, and it looks like we haven't learned a thing. And there goes the neighborhood. Signs outside Charles River Park, high rise. If you lived here, you'd be home now. If you hadn't torn down my father's house, I would be living here. Boston's West End of narrow streets, 6 blocks of twice as many languages, 130 properties, mostly old apartment houses held families that were anything but apart. The backside of Beacon Hill where the Cabots lodged, and the Yankee names had no relatives in the West End. The West End demolished using federal funds that did not go to feed children, but jumping to renew the city fed the machine instead. The West End torn down for a plaza that was never completed when the money ran out. A parking lot for 20 years, and a high-rise complex, apartments costing millions, whose buildings are named Yankee names that do not echo the names that were called there. Tall gravestones of a city. Going a little bit further out, Trinidad tongues, or Trinidad tongue. A few of the old people in South, back in the villages, speak a bit of it still, patois. That French that rings faint, distant, in a few phrases that creep between the English. Colonial powers that lost make a cameo appearance, like the Spanish that gave the island its name. And parang processions that spice Christmas with maracas and cuatro. But no one knows how Caribs sounded, or whether they had many words for arrowheads of different sorts, or different textures of pitch in the pitch lake. Their descendants, those few unmixed, no plants to cure they find in the bush, mother of vines and other roots. Arawaks, though, are gone complete. Language, lives, and culture. Only some rock drawings remain. And in port of Spain, Arawak brand packaged chickens squawk from billboards. And, oh, I forgot to time myself, okay. And going a little further out, when Mars was here, a couple of months ago, was in the neighborhood, I wrote about 6 Mars poems. Brother Planet. I saw the Brother Planet tonight. No Zen koan with Mars, no, straightforward. And no, not that far. Just near enough to be palpable, near enough for elastic bonds. Spooky action at a close distance. Last time it was here, I wanted to throw it a tin can with a string. Not so strange. When the last time it was here, before that, 1929, Marconi wanted to talk to Mars by telephone. The night expands like a full moon night. Is it Mars gravity or magnetism pulling me? Were I not so rooted here, heavy on the earth, could your magnet, Mars, lift me, leaping like Armstrong? Brother Planet, I know you. I know your face. Frozen polar caps, long gash across your face, the length of the US. Wind-devastated desert surface, all deer. I hear your sunrises are purple. Lovely you.
Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Ruby, Poltarak, everyone, great reading. Let me, quiet little timer. Our next reader is one of our Boston Poetry Marathon organizers, the delightful Xtina Strong. Let's hear it for Xtina.
Can you hear me? I hope so. This is a poem about rain and drought in the White River Valley watershed area. This is a poem about a working umbrella. This is a poem about people who say that we need the rain. This is a poem about some trees. This is a poem about rivers. This is a poem about being sucked dry. This is a poem about change and people's stubborn refusal to accept it. This is a poem about the periodic table. This is about stars and the universe and the theme song to the Jetsons. It's about the cosmic plane, man. This poem is about how billionaires take shortcuts to the stars. This poem is about, I don't know what people are talking about when they talk about the soul. This poem is not about how the souls of dead people fly around and ghost us. This poem might ask what a soul is, but this person doesn't know. This poem is about Soul Train and boogieing. This poem centers itself in a lyric I just made up. This poem is not about me and it's not about you. This poem is about an academic book analyzing the Star Trek voice. This poem could be about nepotism. This poem could be about clusters. This poem could be about every ridiculous costume the character Deanna Troi had to wear in the TV show. This poem could be about Whoopi Goldberg's character's hat. This poem is about Robin Williams' rainbow suspenders and Mork and Mindy. This poem is about every meme I can and cannot remember. This poem is about Carl Sagan and his earnestness. This poem is about Mr. Rogers not being a creepy white dude. This poem is about me thinking about Ted Berrigan's sonnets. This poem is about being waist deep in the muck. This poem is about the band called My Dad Is Dead, and the album is Let's Skip the Details. This poem is about my lack of curiosity about the stars. This poem is about Hawaii and the telescopes on Mauna Kea. This poem is about attempted coups in Chile and the United States and Guatemala and somewhere else on the planet right now. This poem is heavy, man. This poem is about killing the fascist in you. This poem is about me trying to find that quote where Foucault says that. This poem is a harsh bong hit. This poem wants to see the stars. This poem plays prog rock. This poem is not doing the hippie dance. This poem burns Babylon. This is a poem about code. This is a poem about errors. This poem is about my doppelganger and your doppelganger. You are eating a Havarti sandwich and they are eating Swiss. This poem wants to burst out of its own body. This poem is about bodies, tired bodies, about to explode bodies, new bodies, black and blue bodies. This poem is about how every poet knows that language is inadequate, and if you don't, you're a liar. This poem is looking for the best Hannah Wiener quote. This poem is looking for a quote you can't really argue with. The first video played on MTV, the first, second, and third silent films, the first person upon screening the movie Orpheus said, "What the hell is this?" This poem wants to do that, but on the other hand, this poem is a dialectic. This poem is about trying to be happy, joyous, and free. This poem requires patience. It has the timer set for 40 minutes. This poem added to their story, but you missed it. This poem misses you, and it doesn't know why. Or no, wait, it does. It just changed its mind. This poem doesn't want an agenda. It just does. This poem hangs like a rotary phone. This poem says no water, current, no future, no fish, no utopia. This poem is about dead people. This is a poem about how people say that dead people are now stars. This poem says gas lines and panic attacks. This poem reverberates in the air. This poem wants a sonic boom. This poem was told to stop being so stringent, so hungry. This poem wants to love and yet was denied a garden. This poem is about peace and quiet in the country while being woken up on a Sunday morning by a lawnmower. This poem is about sine waves. Sine waves are math. Poems are infinite, or we'd all stop writing them. This poem is not following the scarcity model. Thank you.
Thank you, Xtina. Thank you for reminding me about Mork's suspenders. Thank you, Xtina Strong. All right, our next reader is the awesome John Mulroe. Let's give it up for John. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thanks. Ruby, Mars may come to the neighborhood, but it only hangs out until Saturn shows up. All conjunctions aspire to greatness. Across the marsh, twilight fades, night sky gazing back at your gaze with a wink that promises an even greater conjunction than you had imagined. The industrial park squanders a few shimmers on cantilevered windows, and there are fewer of us now, which makes the stars seem greater in number, harder to count. But Saturn startles us, and then we almost recall when we knew to ask, aren't we the gods who can know the particular confirms the general? This beauty in the sky makes all skies beautiful? Who can know that it is necessary there are those who fall into the abyss, just as it is necessary there are those who reach into the abyss? We were waiting to find the way to cross that parking lot, learning to want to cross it like the first mariners did on shore. A wedge of geese like a ship in the sky. Almost no one on the bike path today. Now we truly move like ghosts. Ornette sings, friends and neighbors, that's where it's at. Friends and neighbors, that's where it's at, and he's right. The bodies shuffle in their wide berth, the dusk in winter indistinguishable from the dawn. A light always and elsewhere, an other we are born with, an absence, a missing that we cannot even see, that we cannot know, but how we know loss when first it kisses us and it dances around us and swirls and is the story of it swirling, sails around us and is the story of it sailing, and it says, hey sailor, don't you want to be startled enough to want to seem the scrub seem and feel clean and give the missing an exact name? Gem Spa, once Ballroom, the Second Spanish Republic, Rena Miguel Christie, Tom Tullis, Brian Kelly, and not to be struggling to be overwhelmed 400,000 times when you really want to believe just once would do. Lines written in Jim Dunn's office. Poets trust angels too much, and angels are a type of crustacean. I once landed in a lobster tank and had to climb over culls to get back to my cubicle. I tried to sit like this little Buddha and wore a sticker that read, hello, my signifier is, the rain outside looks like Brooklyn splendor, and a kiss is the driest thing in the tatami mat. Identity still plagues even the most nameless of us. If you change your name, don't change it to something people can spell. You will want to get an upgrade to the latest verb tenses. You will get a part in a movie where you'll be asked to play a long-haul trucker who reluctantly rescues a beautiful but doomed citation trapped in a one-horse conceit. All the women who wandered down Mass Ave look like Lynn Cheney. I may have got my signals wrong tonight, though. The number one comes in last place and makes a beautiful sound, the full throat of the city that will save you. But still, how can you not trust the angels to whom you long ago lent the skeleton you have been lent? The frame built like a Mack truck that plays music even when broken, and we are broken everywhere. And I'm gonna close with this thing. I don't know if you can. Let's see if we can see that. Right. So I've been doing this wonderful thing. I don't know if any of you saw Oni Buchanan's reading earlier today. She read a couple of these poems. Along with the poets Tanya Larkin, Oni Buchanan, Anna Ross, John Woodward, and sometimes Jill McDonough, we go and we do these sort of typewriter poetry things where we give people a couple of words or a couple of parameters like a season or something like that, or an action verb or something, and we make a poem for them. So I don't really even remember how much of this is just sort of they're all collaborative efforts. We just switch typewriters as we go, and they're wonderful actual objects. There's a book that a press in the west of Ireland that makes art books is making of the images of these. I don't know when they're going to be there, but I'll close with this. So it's from all those poets collectively. Validate your guarantee. Authenticate your arrival. Certify your authentication. Draw back unsubstantiated and then unfletched. Bow. Sorry, I mean arrow. Wait, I'm confused, genuinely and certifiably. As the twin fingers release the string, as the twin towers release the ghost, as the twin wrongs release the right, the true, the authentic sequence of numbers to prove you're whole, to prove you're who you claim to be. The identical twins substituted the word meow for similar sounding syllables in the choral text, then changed to all vowels, one long melisma following gravity down the arpeggio. Oh, it was grand, the way they held hands and the wind stretched and stripped them of any identity, authentic or otherwise, certain but arrival, as arrive they did. Thanks so much.
John. John Mulroe. Boston Poetry Marathon veteran and organizer. All right, now our next reader is Marianne Shannon. Marianne, do you are we going to go without the audio or video? Is that going to be
Can you
okay?
hear me? Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Can hear you great.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, I cannot get this video to work.
All right,
So-
sadly, we'll miss seeing you, but let's hear you.
Okay. Go ahead now. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm here as a ghostly, not even an apparition. I'm just pure darkness. So I'm going to read 2 short sections from the novel I'm currently finishing called Homing. And I'm going to start with a little dedication because on this day, August 7th, in 1428 in Switzerland, the first witch trial was held that initiated the systematic persecution of witches in Europe. So my reading is dedicated to all the burned witches, and especially to all of their animal familiars who were executed along with them. My stepfather was an Air Force pilot. I grew up on a military base in California named after a pilot who died when his Black Hawk collided with a common crane. I often fantasized about my stepfather being killed in a plane that would get taken down by a bird. He might be flying a Dassault Falcon that blew up when its engine sucked in a flock of starlings, or a Boeing B-52 bomber that exploded over the Sierras when it hit a mother eagle. Like the fighter pilot who died when a goose shattered the windshield of his Talon 38, or a US Air Force general who crashed his F-22A Raptor when a bug flew into his eye, or the pilot whose A-4 Skyhawk went down after it struck a swarm of bees. They clouded the windshield. The smell of burning bees wafted into the cabin. Of terrestrial creatures hit by American airplanes, white-tailed deer are the most common. Coyotes are run into far less often. Rabbits mowed down by airplanes pass copious droppings. The droppings attract mice, the mice attract owls, and the owls attract airplanes, getting struck by them. Turtles, red foxes, skunks, alligators, and bats are also involved in aircraft-animal conflict. Dead bird effigies have been fastened to airplanes in attempts to warn birds about the hazards of flocking. Resembling a falcon, a bird bot has been designed to function as a scarecrow of the firmament. Only an experienced aircraft pilot can operate a remote-controlled bird, but an autopilot system is being designed that could allow birds to fly autonomously. With the disappearance of almost 3 billion birds from North American skies in the last 50 years, however, the threat they pose to airplanes may soon be a thing of the past. An older boy named Bobby lived a few doors down from me on the Air Force Base. Bobby had a collection of small grayish orbs in a pencil box that he carried around in his garbage pail kid's atom bomb backpack. Whenever I'd see him after school, he'd rattle the box, promising me treasures. One day an Etch-a-Sketch, another day a Slinky, if I could guess what the little spears were, but I never could. One day we were sitting on his front lawn and saw Daddy Longlegs delicately advancing through the blades. It paused to groom itself with exquisite grace, drawing one of its legs through its mouth. Tenderly corralling it into his palm, Bobby beamed, saying that its legs were full of nerves with thousands of tiny organs for sensing vibrations, smelling, tasting, and even breathing. As the daddy longlegs crept along his fingers and settled into his palm, Bobby gently grasped the globe at the creature's center. Then he methodically pulled off each one of its legs. When only one remained, he placed what was left of it onto the sidewalk. It slowly hobbled around in circles until it eventually stopped and feebly extended its fragile, lone appendage. Then Bobby plucked off its final limb. He took out his pencil box and carefully picked up the tiny globe of its legless body and placed it inside with all the others. It can't feel it, Bobby said. Whether or not invertebrates feel pain is a matter of debate among humans. But when an octopus is pinched or cut, it will discharge the contents of its ink sac. And as I write this, I wonder if the expression of pain might be directly connected to the discharging of ink. Thank you.
Wow, Marianne, that was terrific. Marianne Shannon. A lot of irony there. All right, our next reader is Jennifer Markell. Let's hear it for Jennifer. Woo, 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 woo. Jennifer, unmute yourself.
Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody. This is a wonderful opportunity to participate in this. And thanks to all the people who helped pull this off, pull it together. I know it's a ton of work. I just got this in the mail today, so I'm gonna read a poem from it. It's poems of Cape Cod and the Islands. It's called From the Farther Shore. And it's full of poems about the Cape and islands. This poem is called Landscape with Painters, Provincetown, Massachusetts. This was before all the mayhem in Provincetown of recent weeks that was in the news. Landscape with Painters. Undeterred by record heat, they've come to paint the marsh. Donning straw hats and baseball caps, the class spreads out with aprons, crimped tubes of oils, Pringle cans to hold the brushes. Three-legged easel, gangly as a heron, straddles water and land. The red-headed woman begins with a grid. She charts the marsh like a sailor embarking on a voyage, finds lavender in a seagull's wing, saffron in a fallen feather. A barefoot man leans into the shade of an acacia. His palette is a clock of color, cerulean at 11, carmine at 6. By noon, the marsh will fill again. The sun casts deeper shades of blush and brown and in between, colors they keep trying to capture. Next poem, I have 3 shortish poems. This is another poem that was based on art in some sense, kind of a prompt poem looking at a piece of art. Inside a thought bubble. Dreams sometimes come with a free trial of something you thought you wanted. Your fingernails paint themselves red and grow into claws. You shave your head so you can feel closer to the sun. An imagined lover hands you a glimpse. While you sleep, a wig machine weaves regrets into silk. A quilter hand stitches fragments into a gathered view. The future hides with speckled moths, pineapples, amulets, flamboyant scarves, and fearless swans that swim backwards like dreams. And the last poem, this one was based on some photographs of natural objects up extremely close through a microscope. Up close. A dandelion's fruiting head, a jeweled amphora. Spinach tissues, blue, mosaic, too beautiful to eat. Stomata dot the skin of trillium like points on a map, what's laid bare by a microscope. A pine needle's thirst, seen at the infection site where brown fungus burrows through a season's drought. For now, the lobed algae live on, traveling in pairs, and pollen grains gather on anthers. Tucked inside the feathers of whistling ducks, diatoms gorge on sunlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for the phrase, clock of color. That was awesome, Jennifer Markell. All right, our next reader is Zachary Boss. Please welcome Zachary.
I'm going to read 3 sonnets. First one begins with an epigraph from Joseph Campbell. Mythology pitches the mind. A dream of flight. You may have heard it wrong about that dad, Daedalus, who skyward flung his only son. Not eagle pinions or vulture plumage did he employ, that inventive father, but blade shapes cut from reams of tanned skin, pom-poms and pinnates, aigrettes, and adorns sheer shorn off those who could not solve the maze. Of these leather feathers, some few still bore fragments of distort, suffering faces, like the patterns on a mosaic floor, shard tiled in broken human vases. The armature was crafted from child bone, the joints greased with child fat. Don't feign shock that Icarus, so fledged with madness, fell. This next 14er has an epigraph from David Jones and named Patterns Without Prejudice. The title is A General Outline of Supernatural Creation. First, why not, the tale of how all this was shaped from the wool pack of dark and swirling rat's nest bedlam which preceded this world, from the chaos before order, toward which time converges, last men begin again. Then, the sagas, songs of wars fought among the monsters that were order's first children. Then, the gods, who appear in the scene to flash their more than human smiles and push their predecessors back into the pit. At last comes the rule of churches, cycles of undeserved power, unpunished rapes, feasts in jubilation, and fiat lux, sacramental pyres of faultless beasts. This last sonnet draws upon some material I found in poems by 2 other authors, The Long Loon of Democracy by James Tate and The Burning One by Lee Young Lee. Lee's poem appears in the anthology pulled together by Alice Quinn. Together in a Sudden Strangeness, it was a gathering of American poets responding to the pandemic. So it's after Lee Young Lee and James Tate, begins with a little motif from Rilke. Herr, es ist Zeit, Lord, it is time. The burning stacks. This whole world is a burning library, and we are the books, our deaths and lives. Our pages are indecipherable, charred by lichen burns progressing like limping blossoms across the creased skin of the covers and crook of the split spine. We smolder for ages between borrowings, trapped and wary. Our pages are greasy where patrons have tried to kiss the flame to sleep. Wrapped in wondrous, sulphurous cresting and ebbing, we contain such stories. We yearn to read them by our own cast light, but the fire incuses us and consumes us. We shall never be free, yet impossibly are. Thanks very much.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you, Zachary. Zachary Boss. Okay. Our next reader is the poet you've been waiting for, the fabulous Michael Peters. Come on down, Michael.
Yeah.
I am Michael Peters. I've got three more poems from my Beautiful Death TM manuscript, some Gothic revelations and grotesque oracles in the realms of hungry ghosts. The William F. Buckley, Cheap Kirk Douglas Manufacturing Company's off-brand cloning technology exposed, or Nosferatu proliferating a wordless syllabary of feelings for the sacred everlasting ideology of self. I am Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. And in the nomenclature of feelings ad infinitum, a crowdsourced mob of gladiators gathers under streetlights. Buckley closes the drapes with a plastic wand, arches singed eyebrows, and without fear of the idea's stench, opens his mouth to floss. Yes, I dearly think I love the smell of mint in the darkness of evening. It smells like... That's when the harpsichord kicks in. Yes, he could play the keys, that creeping bedside rhetorical creeper, baring teeth to lick the wet stone, hovering over the holy corpse of logic, promising it eternal conservative life, promising it broods of defiled children who, misshapen and perverted by want, cannot articulate anything in that upper-classed idiolect, that deadpanned logic of a primordial me TM, but that genetic agent of a new disease, an ideology, will protect the names that death shall take. Goldwater, when the ray gun highway was still just a dirt road somewheres in the Arizona Badlands, Cold War bombast, proto soundbite one-liners, and the means to take everything back. This is how the great ideological sorting of the GOP's cosmos begins. When the legislation arrives, there is a great banging of chamber pots. Goldwater steps out from the bomb shelter. His conscience of a conservative stare radiates two pin-pricked vacancies from his black glass frames. The ghost-written truth-teller, totally bamboozled, unzips his nuclear winter parka to reveal his insides. Holy fucking Hammurabi! His bombshell is filled with laws of the dead. It's so cold in there. It's near 0 Kelvin. Behold the darkness of a singular night without stars. This is a tomb, he says, and you must obey the speed limit. I am the portal, and you must enter this highway through me. Milton Friedman's Nobel Prize-winning midnight snack habits revealed, the origin story of the Great Famine and the nomadic tribes it spawned. Holy crap! Is that a burning bush? The forehead of the mountain is glowing, lit up in gold watery light. Milton pockets his hands deep in hallucination, squints, readjusting his office furniture, cupping his tiny Skittles in his candy bowl pockets, scooping them up into his warm mouth where the semantic resonance melts. Yes, it must be a sign. So he slides more Skittles across his cosmic free market shapeshifter abacus TM. Why shouldn't select employees want for nothing? The corporation as an organization is, shall we say, a legal fiction. Let them feast upon the divine flesh of the inexhaustible free market. Let the shareholder's employee take the shareholder's shape. Let these thoughts become numbers. Let sledgehammers ding metal into solder spots. String another wire across the heavens. But a wire breaks. Skittle showers fizz out in the upper atmosphere in a sparkling meteoric tempest. All his glowing thoughts fall under the sign of death. Emaciated nomadic bands of chief executive officers still wander the night, collecting charred black fragments of the great celestial abacus as talismans. Their stomachs growl, tiger-like, with insatiable want.
Thank you, Michael. I just have a question. Do you have to take a shower after you imitate or channel William F. Buckley? Oh my God, it was so spot on.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That was good.
Michael Peters. All right. Our final reader of the evening, batting cleanup. Let's hear it for Kristen Garth.
Woohoo! Last reader of the night.
Unmute.
Oh, good. You're
Hi,
unmuted.
everybody. Oh no, and I just messed up my page, but I'll find it again. But I'm reading today from my new book that's called The Death of Alice in Wonderland, and it deals with a lot of poems about aging woman children and dark fairy tales and Gothic sonnets. So anyway, here is The Death of Alice in Wonderland, if I can get my book together. She breaches the courtyard of her marital house, swallows a pill that stretches the mouth, till what shriveled beneath a gargantuan spouse curls into a corona of daffodil. Silvered hair grows to the ground as she dreams, slides down extreme slate strands, lands astride the red-ringed back of an earthworm agleam, ferrying her into the muddied inside. Deep in the soil, they encounter the grave. Dirty glass casket, decapitated queen, decked on each side by two deceased knaves. She will slumber above and in between, buried these wonders in womanly breast, returns to her childhood for a final rest. And the next poem I'm going to read is called Dig. Men always love me who dig in the dirt. Backyard dictators who like to decide my growth potential, how much I should thirst, how deep the hole they thrust me inside. Might tend a garden, an entire farm. They might dig burial plots while wishing me no harm, or desiring envelopment, worms, secreting my diminishing charms. The soil rich with the remnants of outstretched arms. Succumb to one, scented formaldehyde, from the dead bodies his fingers had plied. Smarmy mortician who liked girls on their backs, coming silently over a corpse he puts to sleep. Men always want me who dig a hole deep. And then I'm going to read my last poem. Is called We All Grow into Coffins One Day. The night, the pink coffin is exactly your size. You lay down inside it, shut dark eyes, until the electricity humming around you begets a disgust that we will go on, the rest of us. Brush your hair, pull up marled thigh-high socks, let toes extend to the end of a box. Discussed for years, feared how fast you could grow. Appears at the homestead like maybe one's for each person you know. So long ago when you were fortuitously small. Could not reach it to breach it, as you recall. Into it lifted each night until it is your size. They close the lid before you close your eyes. Thank you.
Great poems. Thank you, Kristen. All right. So Bridget, can you put us back on gallery?
We are there now.
All right, awesome. So we're going to go around and thank the readers again from this hour. Mitch Heifel, Ruby Poltarak, John
You can
Mulroe.
Say hi, everyone, too.
You guys say hi. Xtina Strong,
Hello, 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 and thank you.
Zachary Boss,
Hello and good night.
Marianne Shannon.
Hi, everyone was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Jennifer Markell
Hi and bye.
and Michael Peters
Hello.
and Kristen Garth. Thank you. Okay, and I think we also need to thank our organizers. Bridget Eileen, do you need to say? Yeah.
You know what? I'd like to interject for a moment here and just let everyone know that we set a goal of 2,200 for our fundraiser, and we are now at 2,355.
Wow.
So we blew through our goal. Thank you so much. But we're going to keep it open. We're going to keep it open for a little while now. And hopefully you'll remember to circle back and put in that $10, $25, whatever it is that you can afford to give for our really, really wonderful organizations. I want to thank also Joe. Thank you so much for volunteering this hour. Thank you also to all our other volunteers, but also thank you a million times over to my beloved co-organizers. Everyone except Christina Liu is in this room. So you guys want to say anything as we head out?
I don't know what
Christina
to
and Suzanne?
say. I'm really, really happy to just be with you guys right now. I wish it were in person. And when we are in person again, there will be
Cake and lots of cheese.
Cake and
We're gonna have like so
dancing.
many varieties of cheese to make up for not buying cheese for the last 2 years.
Oh my God. There's going to be cake and dancing. And I just want to hug everyone. This has been spectacular. And I just love you all. I really do.
Xtina, you have anything you want to add?
I try not to get too sad, but we will. No, it was good. I mean, good seeing everybody. I'm glad everyone watched, whoever watched. I'm, thanking the readers who, everybody just showed up and it worked pretty well. Not pretty well, it worked great. So there you go.
Hell yeah. Are you kidding?
Thanks again. Yes, thanks again to all our readers, all our volunteers, my fellow co-organizers, everyone who donated. And don't forget, it's bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/donate to get to our GoFundMe page and find out all the details about the 3 organizations we're fundraising for. So this concludes. I'm getting all crying. This concludes the 2021 Boston Poetry Marathon. Another one online, hopefully our last one that's just online. But I have a feeling that when we are back in person, we will also be streaming live to other places so people from around the world can continue watching
both.
us.
People have liked this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you again to everybody who participated, everybody who donated, everybody who had something to do with making this amazing, amazing poetry event come into being. And this concludes the Boston Poetry Marathon.
Oh my God, it's so
Readers,
oh my God,
hang out.
high five everyone.
Readers, stay in the room. Don't go
Bye,
anywhere. Hang out
bye.
with us. We're going to stop the live stream.